Captain Peter Cutsey, debriefing today, capturing a glide slope from above. We are currently in Muscat, Oman. We're downwind at 4,000 feet on vectors for the ILS to runway 08 left. Here's a look at the procedure here. We're on the north side and we're downwind now, and we're at flaps up speed, as you can see. Let's go and have a look at a little PowerPoint. And we are going to be referring to a technique, as I mentioned, that's in the FCTM in Chapter 5. All right, the following is a technique that may be used for ILS, GLS, or approaches using EN. However, it is not recommended for approaches using VNAV for obvious reasons. Normally, the ILS profile is depicted with the airplane intercepting the glide slope from below in a level flight attitude. Let's have a look at the chart here. So ideally here for this approach in Muscat, 2,200 feet level flight before intercepting the glide slope. Now, if you notice, we are at 4,000 feet and we're downwind, and we will be turning to base soon. So let's go back and have a look at the PowerPoint. All right, so in this case, there should be an attempt to capture prior to the final approach fix. The map display can be used to maintain awareness of distance to go to the final approach fix. The use of the autopilot is also recommended. Note, before intercepting the glide slope from above, the flight crew must ensure that the localizer is captured before descending below the cleared altitude. So we'll set ourselves up in the landing configuration and established on the localizer before we begin the technique. You may find in some cases that you'll have to start configuring for the landing configuration prior to intercepting the localizer. But in any case, do not start down until you're established on the localizer. And in most cases in the real world, that is the case. And we'll try to show you that today. In some instances, when intercepting from well above a 3-degree glide slope, a false glide slope capture can result in an unexpected rapid pitch-up command, which can lead to a rapid loss of airspeed. This second note, really, if you are well above the glide slope, you should be initiating a go-around. There probably is no reason to even attempt. If you're too close and way too high, you'll get that with experience. All right, let's go back to the actual technique now and have a look at the technique. Select approach on the MCP and verify that the glide slope is armed. Of course, that's after you've been cleared for the approach. And established on the localizer. All right, establish final landing config and set the MCP no lower than 1,000 feet AFE. Field elevation in Muscat is 25 feet. We will round up to 100, so therefore we will set 1,100 on the MCP. And if you notice, ensure that you set that and maybe even higher, but we're going to use no lower than 1,000 feet. All right. Select the vertical speed mode and set 1,000 to 1,500 feet per minute to achieve glide slope capture by 1,000 feet above field elevation. The use of VSD, if installed, it is today, or the green altitude range arc may assist in establishing the correct rate of descent. Monitor the rate of descent and airspeed to avoid exceeding flap placard speeds and flap load relief activation. At glide slope capture, observe the flight mode enunciations for correct modes and monitor the glide slope deviation. And also, once you've captured the glide slope, don't forget to set the missed approach altitude. Now, after glide slope capture, continue with normal procedures. All right, So remember that if you know from your distance that you will not intercept the glide slope by the time you reach 1,000 feet above field elevation, you're going to have to initiate a go-around. But before you do, ensure you set go-around altitude prior to touching go-around. All right, let's go to the next. Comply with the recommendations on the use of speed brakes found in Chapter 4 of the FCTM. You may be using speed brakes to help you get down. There's a flap restriction. Check it in the FCTM. Note, if the glide slope is not captured or the approach is not stabilized by 1,000 feet AFE, and today that is 1,100 that we're using for a reference on the MCP, initiate a go-around. Because of glide slope criteria, the glide slope should be captured and stabilized approach criteria should be established by 1,000 feet above field elevation, even in VMC conditions. We're in VMC today, and I did that so we can appreciate visually our position. We're going to do this in two parts. This will be part one. And in part two, we will actually do a best approach, or that is a go-around procedure. So let's go right into the airplane. Let's go dynamic, and we are high. They haven't cleared us lower, so we should start to configure for flaps. Flaps 1, set flaps 1 speed. Flaps 5, set flaps 5 speed. Now, we'll say that ATC has now told us to expect to turn in 2 nautical miles to base leg. Well, in that case, gear down, flaps 15. Flaps 15 speed set. We want to be at the lowest possible safe speed, so our ground speed is minimum so that we can effect a reasonable rate of descent. So let's say we are given the turn now to base leg. We are partially configured for landing. We know we're going to be fairly high. The gear is down, so let's select landing flap. Today our landing flap is flaps 30. And VREF plus 5. Speed brakes armed. So we are configured for a minimum speed. We're high. We're not on the localizer yet, so we're not going to start down. And we haven't been cleared for the approach yet. So we have to be careful. But the trick and the secret in this technique is just what you've seen me do. Now, remember, we're at 4,000 feet. The final approach fix ideally at 2,200. So we have to lose 1,800 feet. So we may want to be selecting that rate of descent of close to 1,500 feet a minute for sure. So let's say we're given the turn to intercept the localizer. So we're cleared to intercept the localizer. So we will select loc. We haven't been cleared for the approach yet. They're on the localizer. We're cleared for the approach. We'll arm approach. We're well above the glide slope. So we'll set an MDA of 1,100 feet, as we said, and we'll go to VS, and we will actually select a rated descent of, we're going to use 1,500 feet to start with, and monitor how things look with respect to the glide path. Now, if we look, the glide slope is armed. We are well above and descending at 1,500 feet per minute. We are configured for landing. We're still above the glide slope, and we are not yet at the final fix, and we want to be there. We want to be actually, by the final fix, we want to be intercepting. So and there's the VSD giving us that indication. So we are by the final fix, and we haven't intercepted. So this would be a go around. So I paused the operation so that we can have a look. So there's the final approach fix. So even with our precautionary setting of the aircraft config to landing config, we're still too high. This is going to require a go-around procedure. Let's have a good look at that so we can understand it. And what we'll do is we'll probably do 3 parts. So we have a look at this. Here we are with the rate of descent of 1,500 feet per minute. And we don't want to be increasing it more than that. Remember, it was between 1,000 and 1,500 feet a minute is what we wanted. So let's just pause the recording here. We'll end the recording.